Okay, so started my life as an engineer, and I was an engineer into my early 30s, and then I joined Allied Dunbar as a financial advisor with them. I stayed with them for 14 years, then moved into being an IFA with a local firm in Stroud, and then in 2015 they were taken over by a large corporate firm, and then I moved to Philip James Financial Services. There's two actually. Consolidation. So, I'm 60 years old, I've got 7 pensions, I don't know what the hell to do with them. And the other one is, I'm interested in how I take my pension, so about pension freedoms, what the current contracts can do and what they can't do. There's a lot of anomalies between what the government say a pension is allowed to do and what a pension provider is actually able to do. So although George Osborne said, hey, you can have pension freedoms, you can get at your pension however you wish, whenever you wish. That's not quite true, because some of those contracts, especially legacy contracts, don't allow those things. And therefore you end up moving them around to a contract that does allow it. Or some have limited facilities to do that. Two things. The first is, very often when we're sat down with the clients and we would do a review and we're going through the things they've got, they will very often say to me, I've got 15,000 over here in a building society, I'm getting 0.8%, where can I get a bit more? I'm disgusted with the return. That's been happening a lot over the last few years. It's improving a little bit now. And I would say, well, yes, it's easy enough to find somewhere, a better home for them. But then I say, what about this pension? You've got £250,000 in there, how's that doing? And they will say, I don't know. And I will say, how much are you going to charge for it? And they will say, I don't know. I will say, how's the performance? And they will say, I don't know. And that's the thing that surprises me. People are more concerned with this little bit of money over here. They've got this great big fund over here and they don't understand it, and so they tend to ignore it a little bit, or they don't pay attention to it as they should do. When you pay into a pension, and maybe you started it 25 years ago, and you make some decisions about what fund you're going to invest in and that kind of thing, you assume that the pension company is looking after your money. And they are, in that they are the custodian of that money. But what they're not doing is they're not making any decisions along the way about how your money's invested, or what's changed in the marketplace. You have to do that, or you have to do it with an advisor. And people don't. And so, I see many clients that have got contracts that are 25 years old. They've chosen a fund 25 years ago. They've not looked at it since or changed it, or they're not even aware they can make changes. They just think it's there and it's somehow locked in. And it's not, certainly in modern contracts. The common sort of description of that is when a client comes to us and he's got 6 pensions, that he's built up over the years. There may be 3 or 4 personal pensions, there might be a group personal pension, there might be a final salary pension. And of course they're bombarded by all this admin that we've already talked about. And they want to move it into one place because they think it's going to be, much easier to look after. And of course it will be much easier to look after. But our job is to make sure they don't consolidate just for the sake of consolidation. For me, there has to be some sort of financial benefit to the clients, or at least a neutral benefit, to allow that movement to take place. What you don't want to do is moving for admin's sake and finding you're paying more for the contract than you had over the 3 or 4 contracts you had before. Many of the modern pension providers offers things called large fund discounts. So the more money you've got, the less they charge you. And clearly, if you've got 5 or 6 contracts with small amounts in, and you put that into one big contract, you may well get a benefit of lower charges. Very often you'll come across a business owner who doesn't have a pension or isn't running a pension, and more than happy to accept that it's about affordability. Whether you're a business owner or an individual, you have to be able to afford to pay into a pension, but on the assumption that you can afford to pay into a pension, or that the business can afford to pay into a pension on your behalf, it's a deductible business expense. So instead of receiving that money in salary and having paid national insurance as an employer and national insurance as an employee, by all means then make that personal pension contribution and you'll get the tax back, but you won't get the national insurance back. If you pay it directly from the coffers of the company before it gets to you, and you won't pay any national insurance, employee or employer, and you won't pay any tax. It's a deductible business expense. So, you really should be. If you're not, you're missing out. And this issue of, my business is my pension, I have a lot of business people say that. It's a valid comment, but you have no idea whether you're going to be able to sell your business in 30 years' time, whether it's going to have any value in 30 years' time, or whether it even will exist in 30 years' time. While your pension fund is in a trust, it's protected, you will be able to access it in 30 years' time.